Black Lives Matter. I didn't post last week, but I spent the week facing my own ignorance and wanting to learn. And the first thing that really struck me was this little sketch. I don't know who the artist is, but it's fabulous. It says, "We said Black Lives Matter. Never said only Black Lives Matter. We know all lives matter. We just need your help with Black Lives Matter, for Black lives are in danger." I'll never know what it's like to walk that path, but I don't have to spend my days in ignorance. If you'd like to join me and get a little education, I'll leave some links below. Grab your needles and let's hop into this first project. Today we're going to conquer the Purl Stitch and use it to create our first project. Welcome back. If this is your first time joining us, my name is Maddie and I teach yarn crafts, in this case knitting, with an esoteric twist. I can hear you now. Did you say Purl Stitch? Isn't that the hard one? Yeah, that's what everybody says. But you should know by now, if we take it one step at a time, it's just playing with string. Believe it or not, in all of knitting, there's only one stitch. If you look at it from one side, you call it the knit stitch. If you look at it from the other side, it's the purl stitch. So why start with this purl stitch that people think is so tricky? Because all the action happens in front of the needles, where you can watch it and see what's going on. And as a teacher, that tells me that that's the best way to learn. The project we're going to do is not an original pattern of mine. It's all over the internet, and the earliest posting that I've seen credits it to the Steiner School. If I'm not right, please let me know, and I will be glad to give you credit, because this project is fabulous. One stitch, one simple square, one seam, and the magic happens right before your eyes. First thing we need to do is gather our material. We're going to need 7 things. 1, worsted weight yarn. 2, size 8 5mm knitting needles. 3, a pair of scissors. 4, a yarn needle. 5, don't panic, pom-poms. These are easy to make if you have a pom-pom maker, but you don't even need that. You can do it with a simple kitchen fork. 6, yarn scraps. That's going to give our little hare eyes and nose. And 7, stuffing. Now stuffing comes in giant bags of polyester, but you can also use cotton balls, or you could recycle an old t-shirt. Just cut it up like a cross-cut shredder and it is ready to go. Not sure which tools you'll need? Click this link up here and watch my previous video where I tell you the best ones for beginners. So the first thing we need to do is find the working end. On some skeins, you'll find it under the ball band. You'll find a loose end. On other skeins, you'll get a telltale sign that something here needs to come out. And yet on others, you'll find an end that looks like, where'd you go? Like this, coming out from the middle. This is a pull skein, where these skeins will unroll from the outside of the skein. This one will pull from the inside. Either way, you need to find the end. If your yarn is well loved and used, you're just going to find that stray end wherever you left it. So dig it out. Let's unroll here for a little bit. and give ourselves an arm length to work with. We're going to make our slip knot. There we go. And now we know, because we're using a size 8, 5 millimeter, we're going to get about 5 stitches to the inch. Swatches are traditionally 4 inches, so let's put on 20. We already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 15, keep rolling, 16, 17, 18, 19, here comes the ball again, 20. So now, double check, count and count and count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. We are cast on and ready to roll. With a 14-inch length, the good news about this is you'll be able to anchor one end under your arm. Let's take a look at these loops on the needle. If you notice, the loops on this side have a pretty sleek look. They're long, and this edge is pretty smooth. If I look at the other side, things look a little different. These loops now have these little horizontal bumps, and each one sits at the base of one of the loops on the needle. That little bump is a purl. Purl, P-U-R-L. But it kind of looks like a little pearl, P-E-A-R-L, around the long neck of each stitch on the needle. Remember that. Everything to do with purl stitching has the letter P. Now, if we look, here we go. If we look at the way the yarn is wrapped around the needle, you'll see, and I'm going to tug on this so you can see this is moving this piece of yarn down here. It is wrapped counterclockwise around the needle. Remember that. The yarn will always go counterclockwise. So let's get rolling. In order to successfully create stitches, we can't just leave this yarn loose. We can't just let this other needle poke in here and make the loops all sorts of crazy sizes. We need to put a little tension on this loop to keep everybody behaving well. There are 2 ways to tension. You can tension with your left hand, or you can tension with your right. But either way, there's got to be some kind of tautness to this yarn for us to be able to work it. You can tell I'm not a right-handed tensioner. I tension with my left hand, even though I am a righty. So it has nothing to do with your dominant hand. It's all where you're comfortable, and we're going to do both. So let's take a look at our purl stitch. Tensioning with your left hand, and you can see I'm grabbing my yarn the same way I did to cast on. looping it over my finger, and now I'm holding the work with the thumb and middle finger pinch. My ring finger is just balancing the end so it doesn't bobble along and I have to go chasing it. Let's take a look at what's going on here. Well, we've got to get this needle into that loop. I told you, Purl is all about the letter P, and it starts point to point. So coming point to point, I'm going to slip my right needle into that loop, and it's in front. This is why we start with Purl. I'm going to do that again. You'll notice my working yarn is held in front of the needle. I'm going point to point, and I'm slipping into that first loop in front. I'm not going behind it. I'm not trying to get in the back door back there. I'm coming up right where I can see it. Okay, now we're set. If you want to hold on, you can. We need to wrap counterclockwise. And here's where, if there's no tension, I can't do anything with that yarn. Wrap it. Hang on, I'm hanging on with my pinky. And now it's pretty taut around that needle tip, the right needle tip. I like to put this finger back here as a safety. I'm going to slide out a little bit and catch that yarn. You'll feel it pop on the tip of the new needle. I've pulled the loop through. Now I need to get rid of the old one. So any finger that's available helps. I need to work just that one old stitch off. And there's my new loop, my new stitch, my purled stitch. Let's do that again. Its tail is kind of annoying. Try to ignore it if you can. Point to point in the front. I'm going to slip in, wrap it counterclockwise, keep it taut because I'm going to try to give you a different angle. I want it to pop out the back end. There it is. Of the stitch. Slip in, wrap it around, keep it tight, and catch it. There we go. Whoop, let me center myself a little better. Point to point, slip in, wrap it around. You'll see it now. The purple one is going to pop out of the back end of the blue. See? Wish I had a lighter color going on here. Slip in, around, and pop it. See, I sandwich it with this other index finger. Old one off. Slip in, wrap it around, pop it through, old one off. Slip in, wrap it around, pop it through, old one off. Slip in, wrap it around, pop it through, old one off. Slip in, wrap it around, pop it through, old one off. Oh, looking interesting. In, around, out the back, off. Point to point. Oh, now you can really see the color differences. Slip in front. This one goes over the top. I'm going to pop it. There it is. with the burgundy coming through, and the green one comes off. Slip in, around, off. So what happens if, oh, it pops out? Nothing. Try it again. In. Oh, no biggie. Try it again. In, around. Use your thumb if you have to. Use any finger available. I find if you hold it toward you, really keeping your pearls close, it's easier because it's really wrapped around that point and it won't pop off so easily. Slip in, pull it around, and off. Now, as we approach the end of the row, you didn't think you'd get here, did you? I knew you would. Make sure you hang on to these last few because they're going to try to escape. Around, out. Here we go. Around, out. One more. In, around, out, and off. So let's take a look at our little princesses here with their little pearl collars. They're all there. Each stitch on the needle has a little pearl collar at its base. So now what? Well, your yarn is always working counterclockwise. So if you think of tracing a circle, it's always moving from left to right counterclockwise. So we need to put this needle in our left hand. And we do. Okay. Set yourself up, make sure it's in the front. Put a little tension on it. Point to point. In we go. And off we go. So while I'm doing this second row, I'm going to ask you to think about those P's. P's, pearls, points, pirates, and princesses. If you ask any pirate or princess, they'll tell you that pearls are precious, and so you need to keep them close, where you can keep an eye on them, because you don't want anybody stealing your treasure. So why was I hanging up? See this purple yarn? Can you see this extra little piece here that's sticking out like an extra loop? I got caught in that. You can see on this yellow piece, the yarn isn't very smooth. I love this yarn for teaching purposes, but it's very over-dyed with all those colors. And it makes it a little stiff and brittle. So it's not the smoothest yarn to work with. If you get caught, just back out and try again. Take a little more yarn. One. Now, here's another tail that's trying to confuse us. Here it's the wrong color, but it's just a random looking piece of yarn. And if we follow it to its end, oh, it's our cast on tail. Just get it out of the way. Don't get it caught. Your working yarn needs to be in the front. So push that tail to the back. Hang on and finish these last two stitches. So this tensioning with the left hand is called Continental. So now you're starting to see We've got some collection of little pearls going on here. We've got purple ones and green ones and blue ones. And on the other side, we've got red ones and green ones, purple ones. Those are pearls. Now, disclaimer, you're going to watch me struggle. This is going to go back into our left hand. Give it a quick count. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Good. Let me move my yarn over to the right side because that's where it's coming from. Now, this one, you can really anchor this needle. Put it under your armpit, put it between your knees, whatever you want. This one isn't really going to move. I'm so used to doing this with my left hand that I like the angle this way. We're still going to come in point to point, and we're going to wrap this yarn counterclockwise. So it's got to lasso around that tip. I told you this was going to be awkward for me. Pop it out the back. Push it off the needle. So now you can see I'm hanging on with my right hand. Scoop it up. Lasso around. Ooh. There it goes. Push it out. And come out loose, so I have to give them a little extra tug there. Uh-oh. Scoop. Round. Out the back and off. So why, if I'm right-handed, would I bother learning to tension my yarn with my left hand? Well, truth of the matter is, I learned to crochet first. And when you crochet as a right-handed person, you have the crochet hook in your right hand, which means the yarn is in your left. So it's natural for me to do that. If you've never done either, try them both. But remember, if you also want to learn crochet, learning to tension in your left hand gives you the advantage that it's pretty much the same for both yarn crafts. And, best of all, is learning to do both. Like I said, I'm not great with my right hand, with the English style of knitting. But when you start working with two different color yarns, two yarns at the same time, things even out and become much easier if you know both, because you can hold one yarn in each hand. Now, English style also has a style that's called flicking. What happens is the fingers of this hand flick this needle as it's right around here, flicking it so that they don't have to let go. I don't know if I can do that. Flick and push. I can't do it. See if I get closer. Whoa, where am I going? In, flick. There we go. And over. Oh boy. In and flick. Around and over. I find that incredibly awkward. But there are many master knitters that you can find on the internet who use that flicking method and are phenomenal at it. And guess what? We're almost at the end of this row. Hang on to that last one. Warning. That first and last stitch, you can see how wonky this one is. It's huge. They can be very, very strange. The tension, because there's no stitch on the other side, this tension is always a little funny on those. But we're not making a garment here. When we make a garment, what we do is we add a selvage. We add some extra stitches so those wonky ones disappear in the seam. So don't worry about those. So now let's take a peek at what we have. Pull down. Now you're starting to see how these pearls pair up. There are smiley ones and there are frowny ones. And it happens on both sides of the fabric. Smiles and frowns. And you can see how my right hand tension is not quite as even as my left hand tension. That's because I'm not as comfortable working with my right hand. We call these, and you can see that they start to form these ridges. This is a form of garter stitch. Remember I told you before, there's only 2 stitches, knitting and purling. Knit is kind of, king of the hill, queen of the hill here, and a regular garter stitch is when you knit every row. We're purling every row, so they call it the reverse garter stitch. Do you need to remember that? Nope, you'll hear it again. Let's do one last row. Now, what's wrong with this picture? Number 1, I can't get in there because I'm holding the yarn in the back. Needs to be in the front, and fair's fair. I'll do it with my right hand. In we go, point to point. Wrap it around and pop it out. Slide in, wrap it around, out. So, there we have it. And you can see, let me come up a little closer. You can see these ridges. You can feel them. They're raised. These are those garter ridges. So now we've got this little piece of fabric that never existed before. Great. Do the happy dance. Show it off. But, having it on a pointy knitting needle is not so portable. We need to get these stitches off here and keep them safe so they don't unravel. And to do that, we need to bind off. So what does that mean? I'm going to switch over to my left hand because that's where I'm comfy. It means we have to lock these stitches in so that they don't come off and unravel. Sounds mystical. It's not. Go ahead and purl this first stitch and the next one. Now you have 2 new stitches on this needle, on the right needle. You're going to use your left needle tip and again, the guarding finger. It's not letting anybody go anywhere until I tell them they can. You're going to lift the first needle, the one furthest from the tip, over its neighbor. And now that leaves 1. Let's see that again. 1 is on there. You're going to purl the second one. And you can push away from this end. If it's easier, grab this guy with your fingers and you're going to pull him over his neighbor. And what you see is what's happening are stitches going sideways right up the edge. So let's get back down toward the tips. Let's do another one. Purl. Reach back here. Scoop it up. You can stretch it a little bit and lift it over. Oh, there it is. Oh, so this fabric is now free. It's free of the needles and nothing's unraveling because this little chain of stitches is holding everybody in place. Let's keep going. Purl it. Now you'll really see it because it changes color. This red one is going to get pulled over the yellow. There it is. So what happens if you lose them? Pull out. Don't pull this thread, this working yarn. Take the tip and go right back through the loops. Now that they're safely on the needle, you can try it again. There it is. And what if you lose it right there? Same thing. Pull out. Go through the loops. And try it again. And these are the moments when having the bamboo needles that are a little less slippery than the metal or plastic, it works in your favor. Here's the last one. Now this one's, you have the freedom of this needle moving more. Bring it over. Pop this last one. So now what? Leave yourself a good tail. At least a hand's width, 4 to 6 inches, and cut it off the skein. Bring this loop up a little bit, not all the way, big enough that you can now grab the newly cut tail, put it through, and pull. And now you have a little piece of fabric that never existed before. You've done some knitting. Congratulations! So now, let's talk about these tails because they don't look quite so professional yet. This is where the yarn needle comes in. Now, this happens to be a size 13, lucky 13. It has a giant eye. I'm still not going to try to put this end through that eye. If you look at it, you'll notice that, especially if you feel it, if you try to roll it between your fingers, this side it's flat. We're going to fold the yarn right over the eye of the needle. And we're going to pinch it between our fingers, pinch tight, and slide it out. Peekaboo. See it? Peekaboo. I'm not going to push the yarn through the needle. I'm going to push the needle through the yarn. So I'm still pinching, lining up my eye, and I'm going to wiggle, wiggle, wiggle between my fingers until I see a little loop. And there you have it. So now, this is called weaving in. We want to take this tail and take a look at it's coming this way. I don't really want to go back the other way, where it might try to escape back out of this loop it came from. So I'm going to go the other way. And I'm going to find some of these pearl bumps that are sticking up and asking me to stick my needle through them. Nothing on the other side. Good. I'm not going through the fabric. I'm just weaving into a few of these raised bumps. And I'm going to pull through. I might have to work it a little bit to get the loose end through. Now, I'm going to pull back a little bit. You don't want to leave a loop up there that looks funny, but you don't want to pull it so taut that it's going to distort your fabric. So kind of holding on, tug it through just until it blends in with its surroundings. Not bad. I still don't trust this little tail. Oops. Oh, my cats are now investigating. Let's see if we get a visit. I'm going to go back the other way over through different loops that stick up. And same thing. I'm going to gently pull it through, not to distort, just to sort of blend in. Nothing left there. It's a small piece. If I had a big piece of fabric, I probably would have gone further down and zigzagged my way, snaking back and forth. Now, I can cut this tail pretty short. Oh. And it's not going to unravel. It's not going to go anywhere. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Fold over, pinch, pull out, peekaboo, wiggle, 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 it's in. Okay, which way am I going? You want to go this way? Okay. I will weave you under some of these lifted loops. 4. Just till you blend. I'll come back the other way. And then you'll find I like to do things in 3s. I'll do a 3rd one. Cut it close. And now, you've got your first piece of fabric and you have some scrap yarn. You wondered where that was going to come from. This guy is pretty short. We probably won't use him, but there's some length to this one. This one might come in handy.